All right, hustlers, it's a little windy today, and I don't have my little wind blocker on my mic, so hopefully the sound is good, but I do got a mic on, so it's been great as long as I've had. Make sure it's on. I had my mic on, it's been great. So today, what I want to talk about specifically is kind of like calculating overhead. I want to go into pricing, but I want to do this very, very simple, right? Because I feel like when it comes to accounting and all of the stuff that you got to track, it is very complex to figure out how much it actually costs to make a product based on your overhead. And so what I want to do is I want to kind of go over my simple formula. It does take a little bit of history to figure this out, but in general, this is what I would say is the simplest way to figure out your cost to produce a good, and include your overhead in the actual item. And so before I go into it, what I want to make sure I do at all times is I want to calculate for the worst possible scenario. And sometimes you'll have an outlier. So let's say majority of your products, let's say your top 5 to 10 products fall into this range as far as how much it costs. You may have some products that end up here that are outliers, and you may have some products that end up down here that are outliers. But if I calculate for my worst possible scenario inside of here, I can treat this as a special case, but I know everything from this point down, this being my worst case, everything from this point down, I know that I'm gonna make money. I'll make a little bit less off a product here, and I'll make more money on the product as it goes down. So I like to do all of my math calculations when it comes to like figuring out the cost of the product or figuring out how much I'm making and different things like that based on the worst case scenario. And so considering that, let's talk about overhead. Overhead are your monthly expenses, whatever that could be. You got rent, you got utilities, that's all wrong. Whatever that spells, y'all know I can't spell. You got rent, utilities, you got your phone, you got internet, you got insurance, you got So one of the things that I leave out is labor that is tied directly to production, okay? Because you can leave that out, but you got labor. Now, again, labor that is not tied to producing the product. So if you got admin labor, maybe you got a VA or something like that, you add all of this up. I'm just going to throw some numbers out here. Let's say 1,000. Let's say 500. Let's say 100. Let's say 100. Let's say 50. And then let's say 500. We're going to add that up. It's 2,250, right? 250. Okay. So this is your overhead cost on a monthly basis. Now, what you need to know, and I said you need a little bit of data for this, right? You need to know what this is. I'm calculating the worst month I've ever seen for my utilities being high. That 1 month, the electric was high, whatever it is, I'm making sure I account for the worst case scenario. Now, what I need to know is I need to know how many items on average, do I produce a month? All right, so let's say I'm gonna just take t-shirts because t-shirts is easy. Let's say on average, I'm producing about 200 a day on a 5-day week. That's 1,000. And then let's say in total, I'm going to say somewhere around 3,500 is what I'm producing per month. Now, I don't got my other phone. I should run and get my other phone to do the actual math, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my overhead and I'm going to divide that by number of items produce. All right, I'm going to go get it. So what this is going to give us is this is gonna give us a breakdown of how much we need to put into each item for the cost of our overhead. Your labor costs directly tied to production, because that's going to give you your output per hour, and we're going to include that separately depending on the item that we're producing. So you have some items that may be able to be produced faster, and you have some items that may take a little bit longer depending on what you're doing. I know that's in the t-shirt industry. If you got one item, then it's pretty standard, but you can put your cost in divided. So here's what you're going to get. So I'm going to get 2,250 divided by 3,500 items a month. And I'm going to get 64 cents. Let's just round it up to 63 cents, right? So I'm going to take that 63 cents, which is overhead per item. I'm going to take that and I'm going to add that to my physical cost per item, material costs, the actual physical cost per item. Let's just say that's $1.25. You know what? Let's go for a t-shirt. I'm going to go with t-shirt math. I'm going to say today it's about $2.25 and then another 25 cents for ink. So that's $2.50. All right, so that's shirt plus ink cost. So now what I have is my true cost to produce an item minus the labor associated with producing the item, okay? Because from here, we're ending up at $3.13 to produce per item. Now, if a person can produce 4 items an hour because it's something that takes a little bit of time versus 50 an hour, depending on the decoration method that I'm choosing or what, depending on the output, this could be, let's say they're getting paid really good and we're paying them $20 an hour. So that's a labor cost of $5 for, let's say, a custom item that they make because it takes more time and we can only produce 4 an hour versus $5 or 20 divided by 50 is 40 cents. It's my labor cost. So I would add this, my labor cost, to this, depending on what I'm doing, and that'll give me my true cost to produce an item. It's really hard to do if you don't have or you don't know the total number of items that you should put in. And then this is simple because you can just look at last month's bills or your project your bills on what it could be and you will get that. But this number right here is the key to figuring out your true cost for producing an item in its simplest form. Does it get more complex? Of course. You can go as far as you want. But I've always been able to use this number in order to give myself an idea of what it's costing me to make and produce an item. It's really simple. Your overhead per item is taken by your utilities divided by the number of garments or items per se that you can produce per month on a regular basis that you have produced. You know what I'm saying? And so from there, we add our actual physical material cost right here. We put them together and that gives us our true cost to produce an item. We're going to add our production labor separately because we put our administrative labor into our base overhead. No matter what happens, we're going to have that every month. If we do not produce these garments or these items, then we're not going to have labor costs associated with those items in theory, right? Just the way to simplify it. And this is going to give us our true cost to produce an item and then our true cost to produce an item with the labor. All right. Listen, let me know if this does not make sense. Don't worry about my spelling. Don't even worry if I made an error in calculation. I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you guys understand it? I had 2 conversations about this yesterday, one virtually with a mentee and one physically here with a mentee, as we look at adding new services and kind of what the cost is going to be associated with them. I'm excited, man. One of my local mentees here is moving from MC to event coordinator, and we have the opportunity. I don't know if I said this already or I can't keep up with the videos. I'm just doing the work, as y'all see. But we have the opportunity to almost at the bare minimum 8x her daily revenue from just hosting to adding these event planning services. This is a big event with a $100,000 budget. I'm not sure exactly, but I'm thinking we can get somewhere between 5% of that budget for operation. And then we outsource services or whatever the case is. So there's a lot going on, but this is one of the reasons that we looked at this in the event space. I just wanted to break it down for a person with a product here today. But it's important that you get confident in knowing your numbers. And the way that you build confidence is by doing the work that goes into putting the numbers on paper, getting a full understanding. And you don't have to understand the entire number calculation. This is all I need to know right here. I know it's going to cost me $3.13 to produce an item. That's all I need to know. I need to have that in the back of my head because I'll know at that point, obviously plus labor, depending on the different items that we're putting together for products or whatever the case is. But I know at that point, no matter what I'm doing, because I calculated that based on the worst case scenario, I know hands down that I'm going to make money because I've already done the math and done the work. And this number here is ingrained in my head. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I put a video out yesterday, and I was actually saving it for today, but it went out when I posted it. So I'm making y'all another one. No slacking. We just straight to work. I appreciate you guys for tapping in. Remember, everybody needs a saying. And subscribe already, God damn it.